Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Bhada Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhada Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart, and text 31. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotra Satsisi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotra Satsisi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Guru and Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityanam. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Nityanam. Narayana Namaste Chanarum Chaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Vajirayat Nashta Prayiswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, and Text 31. Tinatmanatmanam upeti shantam anandam anandamayo vasani itam gating bhagavating gatuya sabe puna neha vasajayinga tinatmanatmanam upeti shantam anandam anandamayo vasani itam gating bhagavating gatuya sabe puna neha vasajayinga Tinga Tinatmanatmanam upeti shantam Anandam anandamayo bashani Itangating bhagavating gatuya Savai puna neha visajatinga. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to chant, can chant now.
Tenatmanatmanam upate shantam anandamandanmayo vashane etam gatem bhagavatem gatoya savai purnaneha visajategnya. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? All right, we'll do word for word. Tena, by that purified. Atmana, by the self. Atmanam, the super soul. Upeti, attains. Shantam, rest. Anandam, satisfaction. Anandamaya, naturally so being. Avasane, being freed from all material contamination. Etam, such. Gatim, destination. Bhagavatim, devotional. Gata, attained by. Ya, the person. Sa, he. They, certainly. Puna, again. Na, never. Iha, in this material world. Visajati, becomes attracted. Anga, O Maharaj Pariksit. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. We should specially note in this verse the description of Gatim Bhagavatim. To become merged in the rays of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as desired by Brahmavadi impersonalists, is not Bhagavatim perfection. The Bhagavatas never accept merging in the impersonal rays of the Lord, but always aspire after personal association with the Supreme Lord in one of the Vaikuntha spiritual planets in the spiritual sky. The whole of the spiritual sky, of which the total number of the material skies is only an insignificant part, is full of unlimited numbers of Vaikuntha planets. The destination of the devotee, the Bhagavata, is to enter into one of the Vaikuntha planets, in each of which the personality of Godhead, in his unlimited personal expansions, enjoys himself in the association of unlimited numbers of pure devotee associates. The conditioned souls in the material world, after gaining emancipation by devotional service, are promoted to these planets. But the number of ever liberated souls is far, far greater than the number of conditioned souls in the material world. And the ever liberated souls in the Vaikuntha planets never care to visit this miserable material world. The impersonalists who aspire to merge in the impersonal Brahma-Jyoti effulgence of the Supreme Lord, but have no conception of loving devotional service to him in his personal form in the spiritual manifestation, may be compared to certain species of fish who, being born in the rivers and rivulets, migrate to the great ocean. They cannot stay in the ocean indefinitely, for their urge for sense gratification brings them back to the rivers and streams to spawn. Similarly, when the materialist becomes frustrated in his attempts to enjoy himself in the limited material world, he may seek impersonal liberation by merging with either with the causal ocean or with the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence. However, as neither the causal ocean nor the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence affords any superior substitute for association and engagement of the senses, the impersonalist will fall again into the limited material world to become entangled once more in the wheel of births and deaths, drawn on by the inextinguishable desire for sensual engagement. But any devotee who enters the kingdom of God by transcendental engagement of his senses in devotional service, and who associates with the liberated souls of the personality of Godhead there, will never be attracted to the limited surroundings of the material world. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 15, also, the same is confirmed. As the Lord says, the great Mahatmas, or the Bhakti Yogis, after attaining my association, never come back to this material world, which is full of miseries and is non-permanent. The highest perfection of life, therefore, is to attain his association and nothing else. The Bhakti Yogi, being completely engaged in the Lord's service, has no attraction for any other process of liberation like Gyan or Yoga. And the pure devotee is 100% devotee of the Lord and nothing more. We should further note in this verse the two words Shantam and Anandam, which denote that devotional service of the Lord can really bestow upon the devotee two important benedictions, namely peace and satisfaction. The impersonalist is desirous of becoming one with the Supreme, or in other words, he wants to become the Supreme. This is a myth only. The mystic yogis become encumbered by various mystic powers and so have neither peace nor satisfaction. So neither the impersonalist nor the yogi can have real peace and satisfaction, but the devotee can become fully peaceful and satisfied because of his association with the complete whole. Therefore, merging in the absolute or attaining some mystic powers has no attraction for the devotee. Attainment of love of Godhead means complete freedom from all other attractions. The conditioned soul has many aspirations, such as becoming a religious man, a rich man, or first-class enjoyer, or becoming God himself, or becoming powerful like the mystics, and acting wonderfully by getting anything or doing anything. But all these aspirations should be rejected by the prospective devotee who actually wants to revive his dormant love of God. The impure devotee aspires after all of the above mentioned material things by perfection of devotion. But a pure devotee has none of the tinges of the above contaminations, which are the influence of material desires, impersonal speculations, and attainment of mystic powers. One can attain the stage of love of God by pure devotional service or by a learned labor of love for the sake of the devotee's lovable object, the personality of Godhead. To be more clear, if one wants to attain the stage of love of Godhead, he must give up all desires for material enjoyment. He should refrain from worshiping any of the demigods, and he should devote himself only to the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He must give up the foolish idea of becoming one with the Lord and the desire to have some wonderful powers just to get the ephemeral adoration of the world. The pure devotee is only favorably engaged in the service of the Lord without any hope of emolument. This will bring about love of Godhead or the stage of Shantam and Anandam, as stated in this verse. Oma Gyanati Virandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya. Chaksho Umlitam Dina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Dina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Okay. So, do the English translation again. Only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns. So again, another very important information given by Shukadeva Goswami. And before I go on, I would like to beg permission from my senior devotees who are on there listening on this call now. Hare Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada is indicating by this translation that the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in bliss, complete bliss. Bliss means the highest happiness. That's how the dictionary defines it. So it doesn't get any better than that when someone is blissful. And also satisfaction in his constitutional state. What is the constitutional state? Servant of the servant of servant. Das, Anudas. And Srila Prabhupada said in this connection, when one feels that he's a servant and is convinced he's a servant of a servant of a servant and servant 1,000 times down, the better. That's very good. Just the lower that you feel as a servant, the better it is. So, Srila Prabhupada, in one situation, in a university, and if I'm not wrong, it's Australia, I'm thinking that he was there at one of the universities. So the students came to hear him. The devotees were there with them. And when he finished his lecture, hmm, there were some Christians in there that began to heckle him. First, they wanted to know, Ramiji, what do you think of Jesus? Jesus Christ? He says, Jesus Christ is a pure Son of God. Hmm? We hold him in very high esteem. And then some of them went on with some arguments. One of them saying that Srila Prabhupada had mentioned first class, second class, third class, fourth class men. First class men, second class men, third class men, fourth class. So then that particular student said that, so then Swamiji, I would assume that you think yourself to be a first class. Are you first class? Srila Prabhupada said, no. What class are you on? Srila Prabhupada said, fifth class. But he had not mentioned the fifth class in the lecture. Still, he showed his humility by saying fifth class. And then he was asked to define why he had said that. He said, I am the servant of the fourth class, second class, third class, first class. I am the servant of all of those classes of men. I am the servant. So Srila Prabhupada put himself as a servant even of the Shudras. Mm-hmm. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And he put himself in that situation. Mm-hmm. So, Srila Prabhupada was showing an example to us, even in the situation of difficulty with the students who are being unruly. Mm-hmm. He showed humility. He showed the position that a pure devotee should always think himself at, and that is being the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hmm? So, this text continues to say, as Sukadeva Goswami is explaining, whoever is able to literally improve their devotion get to the point where they are almost perfect. And sometimes those of us who are conditioned souls, we get there, but there's always the snare by Maya. The weaknesses sometimes you may not be in that situation for a while, and then for some reason something happens, and then Maya begins to suggest some sense gratification, material sense gratification. So we should always be on guard. But a person who has actually improved from the anartha stage, getting rid of unwanted desires, to be now steady in Krishna consciousness, and then begin to get the taste of what love is like in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those all come under cleaning up our act, which is renovation, cleaning up our act and getting to the devotional perfection. That person sees things as they are. And the material world is never a place that they would want to come back to. The only one suggestion, or one exception, sorry, when Krishna asks that the devotee come, but then they're coming as an ambassador, they're not going to jail. This is a cosmic jail for the Lord. They're just coming to do some work on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the ultimate aim of getting people going back home, back to Godhead. So those are the jobs for what people call messiahs. Messiahs come in different religions waiting for this messiah, that religion is waiting for that messiah, and so on. Christians are waiting for messiah, Jews are waiting for messiah, and Muslims are waiting for messiah. They all come in, they all have their way of describing this. So That kind of work, if Krishna asks a pure devotee to come do, then of course, out of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will come for a short period of time and go back. Most of the time, they're here for a short period. Jesus, for one, was here 33 years, and then he was gone. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada brings attention to two terms in the text: Gatim, which is destination; Bhagavatim, which is devotional destination. And as he has done many times, he reminds us the rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those are spiritual. But to become merged in there, that's a Mayavadi or Brahmavadi, as we call them. Brahma Jyoti, Brahmavadi impersonalists. That is what they want to do, but that is not the perfection of devotion. It's not the perfection. So when we hear, and sometimes we've been warned that the Mayavadis have a way of speaking that if we're not careful, they can actually convince us even as devotees. There's one thing we should watch for. What is the ultimate aim of all of this? If you meet somebody who you don't realize is a Mayavadi, and they're talking as if everything that they're saying is something you've heard in this devotional community, you can always ask them one question. What is the ultimate aim of this? Where do we go? And if they say you merge into the rays of the Lord, the Pramajyoti, you become one with the Lord. You merge into that, get away from them immediately. That is your clue that you're dealing with an impersonalist. If they talk about merging into the rays, that's not Bhagavatim perfection. That's not what devotees are looking to do. Devotees are also looking to be accepted in the spiritual world by the mercy of the Lord, but in the Vaikuntha planet, especially at this point where Lord Chaitanya has only been here just a little over 500 years ago, and the presence of Goloka Vrindavan is known now. And Srila Prabhupada is preparing us to go to that planet. We get to associate with the Lord. The difference is in the Brahma Jyoti, there is peace. Yes, Shantim is there, but there is no association. And on top of that, one does not get that spiritual body, which is from the soul, which expands into fullness and is able to relate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That does not happen in the Brahma Jyoti. The soul is atomic now. And when a person merges into the Brahma Jyoti, they stay that same size. It's explained in the scriptures that atomic sizes. But when the person is going back to the spiritual world, there is expansion into the Siddha Swarup, the original form of the Lord, the original form of the person, and relate to the Lord like that. Srila Prabhupada has also talked about the relationship of the devotees to the Lord. The service that we provide, everybody, back in the spiritual world, is on a voluntary basis. Krishna doesn't force anybody to be any particular or take any particular service. But the devotees are themselves so much in love with the Lord that anything that makes a wonderful festival unfold wonderfully, they'll do. They will do. So any form that the soul assumes in order to serve, it is definitely to make everything work so perfectly. Although it is voluntary, as Srila Prabhupada says. For us, we are being trained in order to get to the point where our heart opens up. And even when we have particular services, we are more than happy to do those services. That's our perfection. We're serving, and now Krishna notices that, and he already has said the extent to which we surrender to him, he would reward accordingly. And so at that point, we become very happy and more than eager to chant the holy name, more than eager to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, everything then, as it says, our spiritual lives get renovated, become better, then everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is important to us. And even while we're in the material world, anything that we see, we said, Lord Krishna put it there. It's by the mercy of Lord Krishna this is happening. By the mercy of Lord Vishnu, this is happening. This is wonderful because of what Lord Vishnu has done. So then our minds, in everything that we see, we relate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada continues that the destination, Gatim Bhavatim, devotion destination, for the devotee is to enter into one of the Vaikuntha planets and relate with Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then there is activity of love, exchanges of love. So the Lord is always enjoying himself in the association of plenty of, or to say, unlimited number of pure devotees, his associates. We are also his associates, but we, unfortunately, were thinking that we wanted control, and that's why we wound up in the material world. But the devotees are fortunate in that that's been explained to us, and the reasons have been made very, very clear about what's going on in the material world. It's a place that's temporary. The body is temporary. And there's all kinds of suffering that's here. The other day we were talking about it Sunday, that a good many of us, by the mercy of the Lord, may be able to handle this material. We have to pay to live. That's life. In the spiritual world, you don't pay anything. Everything is provided. Even what you desire comes to fruition because they are kalpavriksha trees and desire trees. They give you whatever you want. Now, here we pay. And some people are able to, by the Lord's mercy, manage their bills, even save some money. But is that the same for everybody on this planet? No. There are some people suffering. There are some people that are not able to pay their bills. There are some people that don't have homes. There are some people who are in very, very difficult situations are happening with them with the weather. They may have had homes and then a hurricane comes through, a tornado comes through, and now they've lost their home. The fact that it hasn't happened to us does not mean that we are in a planet of safety. It's happening somewhere else. There are wars somewhere else. But that somewhere else is not really something we should take out of our minds altogether because they are all the same planet. It's happening on the same earth. So it's a place where there's danger at every step. We ride our cars, but at some point, there is accidents because humans, one of the defects is the tendency to make mistakes. And mistakes result in, for cars, car accidents, for automobiles. And we have to deal with that. It is a very, very, very difficult situation that every now and then happens to everybody. So the material world is not a place to stay. So after we work on ourselves and we gain that process, which is called emancipation, getting out of the material lifestyle and making the devotional lifestyle the priority in our lives. Then at the end of this body, we breathe our last breath, we have a very, very good chance of being promoted to the planet in the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planet, not the Brahmajyoti. Brahmajyoti is for impersonalists. And they think that the Lord does not have a body, but when it comes to the material world, then he takes a material body. And then he dies and leaves material, just like us. So they're not thinking in terms of, they don't even understand the Lord's, his power and his influence and how he unfolds his own pastimes. And that's them. But when you come to Krishna consciousness, be careful not to be swayed by these Mayavad people. Stay with the process. It's a very simplified process by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratuze Namaha. The most magnificent form of the Lord, having Srimati Radharani's mode of worship, mode of service. He is the best in terms of example for all of us. And he came to show us, God himself, what to be as a devotee from young to initiation, to propagating the holy name to the Lord. And he infused in his holy name love of Godhead. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haridas Thakur explains that when one chants offenselessly, they will develop love of God. When one chants at the Namabhas indistinct level, they still get liberation. So the holy name of the Lord is very, very, very potent. And we have to be determined to pray and cry to the Lord for just one thing, attentive chanting. Attentive chanting has all the, as we say in America, the marbles. Everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead in love is exposed to us with attentive chanting. So everybody should desire to get to the point of total attentive chanting. Why not? The mantra is very simple. Even a 2-year-old can say the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then why is it that if there's one more condition, pure chanting, that we shouldn't aspire for it? We should, all of us should be very determined to chant and chant offenselessly and chant clearly. So any kind of workshop, like Zone Sachinanda Swami holds workshop on the holy name and how to chant, on the chanting, take advantage of it. If you can be there physically, yes. If you cannot, then of course, by these days, technology, there's some recording done of it. Make sure you find out where it is and hear it and take advantage of it. Use it in your life. This is for my own purification too, as he's saying. We all could chant better. So that opens up the love, as Haridas Thakur was saying, opens up the love of Godhead. Now just imagine, think a little bit, how much mercy Lord Chaitanya has given us. Just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can develop love of Godhead. And from that, we will be totally happy even while we're here in the material world. The Lord will reveal himself in so many ways to us. Our service to other devotees will be very, 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 very top, at the top, first class. Sri Ramanujacharya told his disciples when he was leaving his body. First, he praised them for wonderful service they've done for him in his life. But he also said, relate to each other with the same intensity of service that you have done for me. Relate to each other with that same intensity. The activities themselves may change, but the intention and the heart behind it should be the same. If a person, a devotee, wants to grow, that should be the attitude. You serve other devotees with the same kind of urgency and the same kind of devotion as you give to our spiritual master, as you give to the deity. Put that same heart into serving each other. Never think that a devotee is younger and therefore, well, I have more power over them. You're thinking materially then. The younger devotees are very, very good examples, very good tests for us, how we relate to them. We're very much sure how we relate to Krishna in the spiritual world. Because Krishna looks like a teenager. And all we have to do is look at the deities around in the different temples. Which one shows Krishna as an old man? None. Well, if Krishna is young and we're going to relate to a young personality of Godhead, get used to relating to young people, just like you do Krishna. So that's our test. Hmm? I remember one situation was quite unfortunate, and I'm not going to call any names, but I'll bring a point out. Hmm? There was one devotee that had an opportunity to be initiated by a spiritual master. That devotee was about the same age, physically, age, as the spiritual master. And he had problems. He had problems getting initiation from this particular guru. This is all in ISKCON now. Later on, and I knew him well, later on, he revealed that he had an issue with getting initiated by that guru. And he put it this way: I would be more comfortable. This is him speaking now. I'd be more comfortable being initiated by an older person. In other words, from his material, traditional background, older people are given respect, and you have to give respect to guru. So from a material standpoint, he connected it like that. If I want a guru, he should be an older person, much older than me. But that's not what we're going to see in the spiritual world. You're not going to see an old Krishna, old gopis. No. Hmm? Teenage looking Krishna, teenage looking gopis are the ones that are there. So from that point, we should actually begin to relate to devotees, especially the younger devotees, very nicely, and not let Maya cause us to think, oh, we are older than them. We got initiated before them. Some of them not even initiated. Therefore, we can just, take advantage of them or put them down whenever. We can get angry at them, say anything we like to them. That is a snare by Maya. Remember, Krishna is not old looking. His body does not get old. Unless he himself wants to do something for a particular pastime, then he can then assume any kind of body as he likes, including old one he wants to. And he's done that in some pastimes with the gopis, though, not with us. So the devotee who enters, the Prabhupada is saying, so anyone who is really, really, really determined to engage their senses in devotional service, determined, and associate with those that can even help them to be better, will get an opportunity, it's only a matter of time, to associate with the personality of Godhead. Even while they're here in the material world, there will be a deep connection between them and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from that deep connection, there will also be a steady rejection, mental rejection of the material world. And that's called detachment. And that person would only use what's necessary to maintain the body. They will take care of the body because the body is what's being used for service. That will be the reason. Not make the body very, very, very stout and very strong just so people will be attracted by looking at the strong body. But they will maintain their health in order to be able to serve devotees, serve Guru, and then serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the deity form. So the senses have always got to be engaged in devotional service. And Maharaj Amrish is a great example. All of his limbs and his thoughts were all about serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serving, he was a king, serving the population. Therefore, the people loved him very much because of where his mindset was at. He was a Raja Rishi, the king, but also a saint. So these examples are all there for us. Swayambhuva Manu, the first Manu, when he wakes up, he wakes up to hearing bhajans by the Lord. I mean, by the Lord's devotees, I'm sorry. Bhajans of the Lord by the Lord's devotees. That's how he gets up. He gets up thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm. And so we have to be engaged not only in the Lord's service, but thinking always about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm. Gyan, yoga, especially hatha yoga, we're not involved in those kind of things. Mm. Srila Prabhupada also says, Shantam and Anandam, satisfaction and rest, or peace and satisfaction. Those can be bestowed upon us when we involve ourselves in a very determined way in devotional service. Determined means sometimes there will be challenges, but that should never sway us, or the challenges should not be used as an excuse not to do devotional service. The challenge should be seen as a test. For the Lord, Maya is doing that to us to see if we really would serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead under an unusual or difficult situation. So, impersonalists trying to become one with the Supreme, Sri Prabhupada says, you just merge into the Brahma Jyoti and you'll be peaceful. But actually, at the back of their minds, what they want is to be the Supreme. But that can never happen. Nobody is at the level of Krishna. Nobody is greater than Krishna. So to becoming one with the Supreme is just, Prabhupada says, it's just a myth. It's just a myth. People think it's going to happen. It will never happen. So we shouldn't be attracted to those kind of things. And sometimes it will happen. All kinds of people, when we go out to distribute books or do some other activity involving Krishna consciousness outside in the public, all kinds of people come. The other day, we had in Mechanicsburg, there was some festival. The devotees got invited. We got a booth. We had books. And there were 4 young men that came with their Bibles. They're thinking of us as the demonic people. They're coming to convert us. So we meet all kinds of people. And some of us had background in Christianity prior to coming to Krishna consciousness. So we started quoting from the Bible to turn their minds to Krishna consciousness. And we knew what was not in the Bible. And so it became a point where there had to be a debate because they were really vigorously telling us that we should be Christian. We should go by the Bible. So then we started talking about Bhagavad Gita, what's there and what's not in the Bible. As soon as you bring up the question of the soul, the average Christian does not know much about the soul. They know that when a person dies, then the soul they want to go to heaven. That's what they know about. But what is the soul? What's the quality of the soul? What's the size of the soul? Where is the soul? They don't know answers to any of these. But it's all provided in chapter 2. Text 23, 24, 25 in Bhagavad Gita. The nature of the soul is described. In other places too it is. Prabhupada gives so many purports about it. So then in that particular festival, we started talking to them. And all we just did is point to Bhagavad Gita. Do you know this? Do you know this about the soul? But your soul wants to go to heaven, but you don't know what the soul is like, or where it is, or what its dimension is, and how it comes to the body, and even the process of leaving, death, how it all connects to the soul. And so for everyone, we just kept pointing. It's there. It's there, pointed to Bhagavad Gita. It's in that book. That's in our book. It's in our book. It was difficult to convert them or make them think other than Christianity. But because we pointed to that book about the soul, finally they left, and one of them decided to take the Bhagavad Gita to read. So this is first class. Sanatan Dharma, that's what we're involved in. And when we take it seriously, we have a very, very, very wonderful opportunity to be with the Lord, as it says in the translation. The person that is relating to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, particularly puts it that way, the purified soul. He's the one that can attain perfection with associating the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what should be our aim? To try to get purified. And to get purified, dirt has to be removed. A place is clean when the dirt is not there. Tito Dapana Majanam, Baba Mahadabagni Nivapanam. So the dirt has to go. How do we do that job of cleaning ourselves up? We should clean ourselves up physically, spiritually, and mentally. All of that. We should be clean. We should present ourselves nicely, not in the mode of ignorance, kind of tattered clothes and stuff. Don't go by what people do now. And they think that it's cool to be wearing clothes and some of it is tattered here and it's the style. Yeah, it is the style in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, more the ignorance is there. So don't play into that. And some of the adults, I've never seen them do, but children sometimes get swayed by those kind of things. And adults they are the parents. So that's why we're telling you. Don't let the children do crazy dressing like that. Physically, to keep themselves clean. Taking a bath every time in the morning. Your papa says twice daily. It's good. Brahmachari, sannyasi, they even do 3 times daily. Morning, afternoon, and evening. Physical. Mental. Be in the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 42. Text 42 of chapter 18. Read that and see what it talks about. Sama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Gyan, Vigyan, it's all there. It's listed. 1842. And try to live like that. That will put us in the mode of goodness. Now, to transcend to that higher level, mode of transcendence, that's been provided for us by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. To hear, to chant, and also to serve in the different ways that's described in the 7th canto by Prahlad Maharaj. The prayers, when we pray, it should be prayers for spiritual, as it says, emancipation. Emancipation is coming out of a situation that we didn't like to a situation that's better for us. So there's an example here in this country when African Americans were enslaved here and they're coming out. They call it the Emancipation Proclamation. We're proclaiming that we're no longer slaves, getting out of it. So emancipation is coming out of a situation that's negative to a situation that's positive. For us, our emancipation is getting away from the material lifestyle and getting convinced and living the spiritual lifestyle with great determination. Because when we get to this, for the spiritual lifestyle for the devotee, there's always challenge. And Srila Prabhupada explains that it's not because Maya wants us to fail. Maya does not want anybody bothering Krishna that is not ready to serve like the servant of a servant of a servant. And so Maya exposes our weaknesses. That's the job of Maya. Maya is not a saboteur. Maya brings out what we need to work on so that we can work on that and get purified, and so that the emancipation just keeps going, coming out of the dirty lifestyle into a clean lifestyle. So that's Maya's job. And when we get purified, and as it says here, that purified soul will attain that perfection of associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction, and will be in our constitutional position also, our Siddha Swarup. And the person who is doing that will never be attracted to the material world, and therefore they will never come back to the material world. This is a program for Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada so mercifully given to us. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to do this service. My own purification also, this is especially the case. This is the time, devotees, if you want to mute yourself and contribute comments, questions, realizations, please do. Hare Krishna. Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, August
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Very sure.
I had to miss half the class because I had an important call, but I don't know if you addressed this question, but in the verse, I mean, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada used two words, which is Shantam and Anandam, peace and satisfaction. So in this age of Kali Yuga, engaging in devotional service, we still find that something, that we get pulled away from the peace and satisfaction, mentality or consciousness. So how can we gauge or assess or check to see that we are engaging in devotional service that's giving us peace and satisfaction, and not that it's giving us peace? Because sometimes I think when we do service, we think, oh, I'm satisfied, oh, I'm peaceful, but it should be in the mood of pleasing the Lord or satisfying the Lord. So should devotional service be I'm peaceful and I'm satisfied, and or is the Lord satisfied?
When the Lord is satisfied by how we're serving, we will also be satisfied. Now, on top of that, there's another important point that the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita, the very last text of chapter 5, text 29. Oktaram yagyatapasam sabaloka mahesharam suhridam sababhutanam gyatvam shantim vishyati. So when we have our realization, it starts mentally now. When we have our realization that all that we do, sacrifices, penances, should be for Krishna. Somebody may say, oh, but we expect to do that. Why would we want to do sacrifice for anyone else? Well, sometimes some people go on a fast because they want some social or political change. And they can advertise that, and the press just talks about that. And the person is fasting because they want this kind of change. But that's not fasting in service to Krishna. That's just a material aim that they want to fulfill. So all sacrifices and penances should be for Krishna to be the benefactor of. First, Krishna says that. Then we also should realize that he is the controller of all there is. He is the source of, as it says, Aham Sarvasya Pavaba, the source of the spiritual as well as the material. And he is controller of even the demigods. Well, again, people think, well, he's God. The demigods can't be at the same level as the Lord. But it is there, Shri translates that. Krishna puts it there because there are some people who try to get material satisfaction by going to the demigods. It is the wrong way to serve. It is the wrong way to connect the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the agency of a spiritual master. So that's also important. Source of demigods, the responsibility given to the demigods, the power that the demigods have is all from Krishna. That's all from Krishna. And Krishna is looking out for us. He is the best friend that we can ever have. That is a loving sentiment that's there. A person that understands this, that when they do devotional service with any kind of penance or this bhotam yagya tapasam, sacrifice and penance, it's all such that the Lord is the benefactor of it. That the Lord owns everything, and even the demigods are under his control. No need to go to them to ask anything. We go to the main source, is Krishna, through the spiritual master. and that he's a well-wishing friend for everybody, that person will attain peace. And peace automatically brings satisfaction. Peace, a peaceful person is satisfied with their lives. So with that understanding, then as Sipapa translates wonderfully for us, Bhoktaram Yageta Pasam Savalokam Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Then Shantim is there. The person becomes peaceful. Thank you for asking the question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I hope that satisfies. Any other questions or comments? We're on the top of the hour, so I'll say any last questions or comments. If not, then thank you very much for being on here. This is a lecture for my own purification also. We all want to grow in Krishna consciousness, and that's where peace will come. That's where happiness will come. And rejection, finally, of the material world. Just right now, we just take whatever is necessary to keep the body going. But put the spiritual activities and responsibilities as priorities every time. We serve like our life depends on it because it really does. Otherwise, we take another body next life. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubheva chaptitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.